Saw this shadowy figure pacing back and forth in the living room.
It was coming out of my closet. I've never seen it like that before.
Exorcism is a very serious thing.
As we was running out of the house, it picked my oldest son up and threw him off the porch.
What's up, ghosties? Welcome to tonight's video. I feel like it has been a long time since I have sat here and filmed a video, and I feel kind of awkward, like I don't know how to do it anymore, but it does feel good. Tonight we're going to be talking about a house that I kind of put off talking about because I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about it or not. It is the Demon House, or what was the Demon House. It's no longer there, in Gary, Indiana. Now, I was unsure if I was going to do a video on this topic or not because I felt like between Zach Bagans' documentary and other YouTube videos, I feel like it's been talked about a lot, and I didn't know if I wanted to kind of just rehash what everybody else was talking about. But I asked you guys on Twitter if you wanted to hear about it, and it was like 100% yes. Everybody wanted to hear about it, and there was people that hadn't heard of it before. So that's kind of why I decided to do it for the people that haven't heard of this case yet. Now, if you aren't following me on Twitter yet, you should head over there and follow me because that's where I keep everything current and up to date. You will know when my next videos are coming out. You'll know what videos are coming out, where I'm going next, all that kind of stuff. And now let's start talking about this modern day kind of like exorcist house. As I mentioned before, this house was located in Gary, Indiana. It is no longer there. It has been demolished, and we will get to that a little bit down the road. In November of 2011, Latoya Ammons moved her family into this home, and it was only days after that they started noticing paranormal activity in the house. They only lived in this house for a couple months. They lived in it from November of 2011 until May of 2012. So, it was, like I said, just a few months. It kind of reminds me of the Amityville case, you know, but in the Amityville case, they didn't even last that long. Throughout the family's short stay in this house, Latoya brought in multiple different people. She brought in clairvoyants and psychics and people from religious backgrounds. She brought in law enforcement, everyone to try and help her in her situation. And it's actually a good thing that she brought these people in because these are the same people that are going to serve as witnesses to the activity to kind of back up her claims. So in December of 2011 is when the family first started noticing some of these manifestations of paranormal activity within their home. They first started noticing just swarms of black flies in their day room, and no matter how many times they tried to get rid of them, these black flies would just come back in masses. And the weird thing about this was it was the middle of winter. Usually if you're going to have a fly infestation in your home, it's going to be during the spring, summer, even fall months, but not so much in the winter. It was within that same month that the family started to hear strange noises coming from the house. They started to hear doors opening and closing, and they would actually walk into rooms and notice that a door that was previously opened is now shut. Latoya's mother, or the grandmother that was staying there with them, she had an odd encounter. She woke up one night and noticed a shadowy figure standing within the living room. She got up to get closer to this figure, but as she did, she noticed that it started to disappear, and the only thing left was a trail of wet boot prints on the floor. And for the next couple months, the manifestations within the home kind of stayed the same. They would still hear the doors creaking, they would hear the knocking, sometimes they would see a shadowy figure, but things kind of stayed the same until March of 2012. And this is kind of when the story starts to evolve and get darker. On March 10th, 2012, around 2 o'clock in the morning, Latoya got up to go check on her daughter. She walked down the hallway and into her daughter's room, and when she opened the door, she noticed that her daughter was levitating, floating above her bed. I mean, that kind of activity is straight up right out of the movie The Exorcist.
It's the power of Christ that compels you.
It was after that incident that Latoya started to reach out to other people to try and get help, and the first people that she reached out to were law enforcement. They were very skeptical, and what they did is they kind of just turned it over to Child Protective Services. It is important to note that throughout this entire process, Child Protective Services and the psychiatrist or psychologist, I don't know which one it was, that were involved, they both found that Latoya was of sound mind and felt no reason to take her children away or do anything like that. After the local law enforcement was no use to her, she then went to the church where they told her to cleanse her house. And, you know, one of the ways they told her to cleanse the house is something that I've never heard of, and this doesn't mean that it's wrong or not, you know, a good way to cleanse the house, but I just never heard of it this way. And they said to cleanse the house first with ammonia and bleach, and then go around with sage. Has anybody heard of that before? I've never heard of using ammonia and bleach first. After cleansing her house, the activity still continued, so then she turned to 2 different psychics, and the psychics that she went to told her that over 200 demons were possessing the house that she was in. They told her that the only thing that she could do was to move out of the house, and that just wasn't an option at the time because she couldn't afford to move out. And despite cleansing the house and seeing the psychics, the activity just seemed to get worse. And this is when the children started to show signs of possession. Some of the children started to speak in a really low, guttural voice that didn't seem like they'd be able to produce on their own.
We are the ones who dwell within.
The family started to notice different changes within the children's facial features. They said that their eyes almost looked like they were bulging and that their smiles would almost turn into this evil, like, smirk. It was also at this time that the force in the house started to get more violent. The grandmother reports seeing a child being thrown from the bathroom out into the hallway by an unseen force.
It picked my oldest son up and threw him off the porch. It flipped him over and threw him off the porch.
Fast forward to April 19, 2012. While the family was at a doctor's appointment, witnesses say that they saw one of the children cursing at a doctor in a very low voice that didn't seem like it could come from a child. And suddenly, out of nowhere, the child was lifted into the air by an unseen force and thrown into the wall. The force from hitting the wall actually knocked the child unconscious. And when he woke up again, the child started growling and becoming more agitated again. And witnesses say that they saw the child lift off the floor and start gliding backwards towards the wall.
Then they write, quote, he had a weird grin on his face and began to walk backwards while the grandmother was holding his hand. He walked up the wall backwards. He flipped over and landed on his feet.
On April 20th, 2012, the church decided to do an exorcism of the house, and while they were there, they witnessed the lights flickering on and off, hearing the strange noises, the bangs, the knocking. They saw the same wet footprints that the grandmother had seen and the same dark, shadowy figure. There were law enforcement officers there as well, and they had some weird encounters of their own.
Police also thought the story was a hoax until they went to the house and saw blinds dripping with oil and water where there was no source, and a mysterious figure in a window when no one was home.
After all of this activity, the family finally left in May of 2012. In 2014, Zach Bagans bought the home, and in 2016, he demolished it. The claims from this house are just so fascinating. It's something that, as a paranormal investigator, it's the type of activity that I would love to experience firsthand. And I know for some people that may sound really weird and really crazy, but I think one of the parts that drives me to do what I do is I want confirmation that there is something else after this life. Do you know what I mean? I want to know that there is something beyond our world or dimension or realm or whatever you want to call it. My thoughts on Zach Bagans' documentary is I thought it was a good documentary. I thought there was something lacking though. I feel like there could have been more of an investigation within the documentary, especially since they tore down the house. This was the only chance to really document the activity within the house. You know, I would have spent multiple nights investigating and putting all of that footage into the documentary to really showcase the activity that was happening in the house if it was really happening. But unfortunately, in the documentary, you don't get much of an investigation. You get a little bit with, you know, like an EMF detector, and then you get at the end maybe like a 20-minute portion of him alone locked in the house. And that's it. Like, I just wish there was more of an investigation, and I just hate that he tore down the house and now nobody else can go there and investigate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it was kind of selfish, but whatever. What do you guys think about this house and this story? I want to believe it, I really do, but it kind of reminds me of a mashup of a bunch of different horror movies. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like this family took the best portions of haunted house and possession movies and put it all in one. I mean, they say that they had The Flies, which was in the original Amityville movie. And then they have The Levitating Girl, which was, you know, from The Exorcist.
It's the power of Christ that compels you.
And I don't know. I would love to hear what you guys think about this house and this story. Do you think it is 100% real? Do you think some of it was embellished? I would love to know your thoughts. If you're new, make sure and hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure and hit that like button. And I'll see you later. Bye.